YouTube, what's going on? ZeroMagnumX. Today we have Shin's Genesis deck, or at least a version of it, to showcase for you. This was used in the last card fight versus my better half. There was a rules misconception about force markers. Apparently, if you place force 2, which is what this is referred to as, you cannot get force 1, even if this is by skill, which is what I didn't know, because there's another ruling that says, hey, if you have different, or if you have a skill, you can get a different force marker, but they use the word icon. So from my understanding, these are the same icon. And then there's another piece of rules that a friend of mine helped me out and said, no, you can't get this because you're locked into this force marker. So my mistake on that. It won't happen moving forward. So this deck is pretty much now force 1 markers, unless we want to like really push damage on our opponent for some reason. This deck also will refer to using the astral plane. I am going to do my best to get the camera to focus. Hopefully you can read that and pause. Alright, so there you go. I left some time to pause in case you need to read the rules. On the astral plane, there's also, Google to type in what the astral plane is. Astral plane Vanguard should show up, because I'll be reading or talking about cards that open the astral plane and what that means, if you haven't seen the Shin arc yet. Alright, our first Vanguard here is, Pan of New Style. I had to make sure I was reading that right. The reason I don't put much credence into these is because they're all the same now. We used to have like different first Vanguards that did a bunch of crazy things in the G series. Now they're just all ride, draw a card. So when you ride upon them, draw a card from deck. Helps with consistency issues. Okay, next up we run Valkyrian. Our grade 5 was 70,000 power. I'll read its abilities so you can understand better when following along. Alrighty, scoot that up a little bit. This card cannot be ridden. When a non-astral plane circle, or when on a non-astral plane circle, it's immediately retired. When placed from hand, look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Put one of them into your drop zone, and until the end of turn, this unit's drive becomes the same as the grade you revealed and put it in the drop zone. Then shuffle your deck. So if you reveal a copy of himself, he has quintet drive. So that's 5 drive checks. We've done that before. Okay, next up we have Origin Deity of Heavenly Light Uranus. I'll zoom in a little bit here and adjust accordingly. Okay, so this guy says, action. If your Vanguard has 3 or more force markers, and this has to be on Vanguard, so sure, that's the wording in this game. You Soul Blast 1 or more cards with the sum of their grade being 5 or greater, and your back row becomes the astral plane. So this guy can open the astral plane when you only have 3 force markers, making it infinitely easier to gain access to it. Then it says, at the end of the battle that your astral deity attacked, rest 2 or more astral poets and stand your astral deity, and it gets drive -5 until end of turn. So that's our Valkyrian, because they haven't released another astral deity yet. Okay, next up we run 3 Gleaming Lord Uranus. And also I want to make a quick note, astral poets are only grade 3 right now. So all of our grade 3s are astral poets. There aren't grade 2 and grade 1s and so on. And I found that out the hard way, but it is what it is. Okay, so Gleaming Lord Uranus reads, continuous Vanguard. If you have 5 or more force markers, your back row becomes the astral plane. So the back row rear guard circle. When placed on Vanguard or Rearguard, Soul Blast 2, get an imaginary gift force, and place it on your Vanguard. So that's important because this is a Rearguard force maker, or force gift maker. That helps us achieve our goal. And then one Quaking Heavenly Dragon, Astreos Dragon. I have trouble saying that word, my apologies. Okay, so he is also a grade 3. Has the same effect as Uranus, where the back row becomes the astral plane. But he also has once per turn counterblast 1, get an imaginary force gift. Now this is only Vanguard, but as on a Vanguard, if we keep counterblasting every turn, we can get another imaginary gift in case we have to sit on him. And then if your astral plane has a unit, you can Soul Blast 1 and draw a card. So card draw as well to help us replenish our ranks and what have you. Okay, up next is my favorite grade 2. And I noticed like some of the other profiles I looked at straight away from this card. I think you have to run this card personally as your main ride for grade 2. And may even want a mulligan for it, because getting a force marker on grade 2 is nuts. Okay, and this is guaranteed, by the way. When placed, Auto Vanguard, when placed, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, draw a card, and get an imaginary gift force marker and put it on your Vanguard. And it's Vanguard only. So if you ride her, she's immediately 20k. In my case, I was putting the crit on her, but that's a different story altogether. Like I said, I addressed that. Moving forward, it will change. But she'll be 20k base on her own. Or if you choose to go the crit route and just ignore power, she's a crit Vanguard then. Like, that's incredible if you want to go like the damage route and pressure route. And just like abandon your astral plane altogether. Which, like I said, I think there is a version of this deck that just may abandon the astral plane and just always be like, hey, my front row will have crits all the time. And that's kind of insane to me. Even if it's lower numbers, it's still a lot of damage. Alright, this guy is amazing. This is Phenomius of the Constellations. One of the other big pieces to making this deck work. Oh, I forgot this. The main Battle Maiden Mitsuki is her name. My mistake. Okay. Anyway, moving on. When this unit attacks, if it's Vanguard or Rearguard, it gets plus 5,000 power for each of your force markers on your circles. So you could have like 3 crit force markers across the board and it'll get 15,000 power. That's 25,000 on its own. That's kind of crazy. And then it says, if you have 3 or more force markers, counterblast 1 and draw a card once per turn. So he's card draw and replenishes your ranks. Like I said, I think there is a version of the deck that just abandons Valkyrian and goes all crit and relies on this guy as your main rearguard to just beat face. And it's possible we explore that later as a version of the deck. Alright, and then our last 2 cards are Phosphorus of Auspicious Light. During the battle, it was boosted, gets 5,000. When it attacks, you can Soul Blast 1, reveal 3 cards from the top of your deck, put up to 1 grade 3 or greater card from among them into your hand and the rest into your soul. I like this card. I wish you wouldn't put the other cards into the soul because sometimes that means triggers. Or, whenever you pay the cost, it says up to 1 grade 3, so you could just put 3 triggers into its soul. I understand it's a grade 3 searcher. I am not the biggest fan. Like, I understand we need to find our grade 3s and they're important, and we need to find Valkyrian and that's important. I think it's more important to make sure we hit our triggers and hit numbers. That's just how I play. If I'm wrong, that's fine. But this is kind of, like I said, this is my own version of the deck. And we have cards like this that will help us find our grade 3s on grade 1. So, Vanguard or Rearguard? Oh, I did not realize that, so I get the Vanguard ability too. Okay, cool. Put a card from your hand into the soul. Look at 7 cards from the top of your deck, reveal up to 2 Astral Poa cards from among them, put them into your hand, and shuffle your deck. If you reveal 2 cards, get an imaginary gift force marker and put that on your Vanguard. So this card's a lot better than the grade 2. Yeah, because that means if you reveal like a bunch of triggers, they go back in the deck. So this is the most important grade 1 in our deck. And he is Daiki of the Just Path. Awesome grade 1. Next up, this is what I believe is our second most important grade 1. It is Diana of Moonlight. When the attack it boosts it hits, Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1, get Imaginary Gift Force, put that on your Vanguard, and if it's an Astral Poet, you countercharge 1. This gives us free gift markers because we're attacking rear guards. If we're pressuring with Valkyrian and other things, most of the time they're letting us hit their rear guard. So I think this is the second most important card. And then finally, or no, not finally, well, yeah, kind of also finally, we run 2 Deputized Bears and 2 Atlas of Heavenly Sphere. Deputized Bear is on rear guard. Look at look at the top 7 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 Giant Deity of Distant World Valkyrian from among them, put it in your hand, shuffle your deck. If you put a card into your hand, and if your Vanguard has 2 or less force markers, put a card from your hand into the soul. So kind of card disadvantage. If we're finding Valkyrian, it's fine. But we run 4 draws and other ways to draw cards that I feel like we can cut back a little bit on this. Alright. And then Atlas of Heavenly Sphere, 1 place, Soul Charge 1. That's on Vanguard. Rear guard. Counterblast 1, put this unit in your soul, draw a card. And if your Vanguard's an Astral Poet, get an Imaginary Gift Force and put that marker in your Vanguard. So regardless, we could just pay 1, push him into the soul, and draw a card. Also more consistency to find the cards we need. Alright, and the last but not least, our trigger lineup. It's real simple. 8 crit, 4 of the draw perfect guards, and 4 heals. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for the next video, whatever that'll be, either a card fight between Kitmits and myself, or maybe the Bermuda Triangle deck profile. We will see. A little spoiler of what's coming up, and a little reward for those who are watching the whole way through, just to get an idea of what might be coming up. And I have to say it, Evil Decoy Token! Alright, take care, and have a good one. And remember, stand up the Vanguard. Later, everybody.